Hello, I'm Georgia Hall, and welcome back to Marshall Close-Up. Today, I'm here with an attorney who has served this community for over 30 years. Please welcome Mr. Greg Carter. Hello, Mr. Carter. How are you today?
I'm having a great day. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. So, you've been an attorney for this long. There had to have been someone or something that inspired you to go into this field. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
A little bit of an unusual, but probably somewhat interesting story to me at least. When I was finishing up my college at Murray State in 1979, my girlfriend at the time was planning to go to law school and have a career as an attorney, and she basically challenged me to take the LSAT and think about it myself. I was accepted into the MBA program, had decided business management was going to be my path, but took the test, did fine, and ended up going to law school. And the interesting part about that is that the other Carter on our door at Carter & Carter Law Firm is that same woman who was my girlfriend then, and she's my wife now.
Well, that's very cool. Was there something that she said that stuck with you to this day about going into law school?
Just that had always been her dream, that she wanted to be an attorney, and she just really challenged me to think about doing that as well.
So law is like a very large field. Like, what kind of law do you do in particular?
I have a typical general small town practice. There are certain things that I do more of than other. I do a lot of real estate law, I do a lot of banking law, I do a lot of small business. I represent boards of directors of a couple of large corporations. One was a bank that was part of a publicly held bank holding company. And I'm also outside general counsel for West Kentucky RECC. So I help people create small businesses and enjoy doing that.
Have you always done this particular type of law, or did you start with something else?
When I started practicing in Benton here, it was more of a general practice. I did back then divorce law. I'm pleased to say that I don't do that anymore. I stopped that about 25 years ago, and realized that I wanted to migrate more toward things that I enjoy doing, real estate. I do a lot of estate planning, and like I said, small business. I help people with estates and that sort of thing too. So I've been very blessed that I've been able to really focus my practice on the things that I enjoy doing.
That's great. So are there other career paths that lawyers can take?
There are lots of career paths that someone with a law degree can take. There are lots of ways to do it. There is a lot of government service. Prosecutors are, they work for the United States government, states, municipalities. They all have to have prosecutors to prosecute crimes. They're public defenders. They're criminal defense attorneys. There are lots of large corporations have in-house corporate counsel. Those are really, really good jobs for people who are interested in that sort of thing. And there are lawyers who go into teaching. So there's really no limit to what you can do with a law degree. It opens lots of doors for you. Do
you like what you do?
I do like what I do.
That's great. So based on your job, what does law mean to you?
Law means order. It's an essential part of what we are and who we are as a society. For example, if we didn't have speed limits on the highways, can you imagine what it would be like? It would be a very dangerous time to be on the highways. The speed limit sign says 55 miles per hour. We know people like to go 60 or 65, but they generally don't want to go 100 because they know there are consequences for that. So what law does is bring order to society. You've probably seen old-timey westerns where in the Old West there really was no law. The law was a man's gun. And if we didn't have law to keep order in society, there would be much the same today.
So being a lawyer is a very interesting job. And what would you say is the most interesting part of your job in particular?
I think the most interesting part of what I do is never knowing what's going to come in the door next or who's going to come in the door next. People have a myriad of problems. Some that I'm willing to help them with and some that I'm not. As you mentioned earlier, there are certain things that I do that I feel like I'm better at and that I enjoy doing. There are other things that I will send people off to other attorneys to see and let them help them handle their problems. But when I go back to the office this afternoon, I don't know who's going to come in and what their problems might be. So if I can help them, I like to. If I can't, then I try to quickly recognize that and send them to somebody who can.
Okay, so you said you went to school at Murray at first, and then you went to like law at Louisville, and what would you say was the toughest part about law school when you went?
I think the toughest part about law school was really learning how to study. I'll have to say, high school and up through college, school came pretty easy to me, but law school was a different animal. I really felt like I had to teach myself how to study the right way. There's lots and lots of reading, lots of discipline required with doing the things that are necessary to be successful in law school. And one of the hardest things about law school was, at least back then, I don't know how it is now, you only had one test per semester per class. So if you started class in August, you didn't really know how you were doing until December when you took your final. And so now it may be different, but back then there was always that question mark: am I doing enough? Am I doing it the right way? And you didn't really know until it was over.
So we have an intro to law class here at the high school. Do you have to take pre-law in college?
You do not. You could, if you choose to, you could be a physical education major or any other major that you want to be in college. And if you take the LSAT and do well enough and have extracurricular activities to back that up, then you can be accepted to law school. So no, you do not have to take a particular path of pre-law.
So how many years of school do you have to take to be a lawyer?
Well, it takes a college degree, so typically 4 years.
4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you prepare for yours?
Studied hard. Like I said, college came pretty easy to me. I didn't know when I was going through Murray State that I wanted to be a lawyer. So I really wasn't preparing myself for law school at that time. I thought I was going to be a management major, and I was a management major, and I thought I would be in management in my professional career. But as it turned out, I went into law, and as I said, I thought I had known how to study in college, but I really found out how when I got to law school. And then law school is a three-year trek as well, on top of the 4-year undergraduate degree.
So you've been a lawyer since the late 80s. Considering how much the times have changed, do you think law has changed at all?
That's an interesting question. I'll put it this way. There are really two parts to that. I think the practice of law has changed a lot because, and you're too young to know some of this, but back when I started practicing law, lawyers used typewriters. And you may not know what a typewriter is these days, but with the advent of fax machines, email, internet, word processors, it's made the practice of law a lot easier, a lot more accessible. Research now is done pretty much online. So the technology side of it has really changed over the years, really changed. And technology in the courtroom now is a really big deal. But the law itself really doesn't change all that much, except, and you're probably seeing some of it now, as culture changes, the laws that govern the culture seem to change somewhat with that. Sometimes for the better, sometimes not. But culture changes do drive changes in the law as society's values change.
So what is your favorite part of your job?
My favorite part of my job is, it sounds cliche, but helping people. When people come to my office, a lot of times they're coming because they have a problem. And my job is to help them identify what the problem is, assess it, figure out what needs to be done to try and solve the problem for them. And it's rewarding to help people do that. And it brings a lot of joy to their lives sometimes when we're able to do that.
What is the least favorite part of your job?
I think the least favorite part is sometimes dealing with people who are going through difficult circumstances. For example, when someone has a loved one pass away, they will come and get us to help them deal with the legal affairs of handling their estate. People are usually emotionally torn when that happens, and it can be very challenging to walk through the process with them and do it in a way that is compassionate, yet gets them where they need to be. And not just that scenario, but for example, a person may have a problem with their neighbor, and might be a boundary line issue. It may be something that you and I might not think is a very big deal, but it's a very, very big deal to them. And being able to help them see what the legalities are of dealing with that situation is a very good thing.
On average, how many people do you think that you work with a day that come into your office needing help?
That varies. I would say average probably 4, 5, 6, something like that. Sometimes more, sometimes less. It just in the practice that I have, keeping the schedule manageable is really important, and so we don't try to stack too much on me at one time, because a lot of the work that I'm doing doesn't require that I have a client sitting in front of me. I'm working on things for them when they're not with me. So I don't have a practice where I have someone sitting in my office all the time.
Okay, so I understand that you've worked in Washington. Could you tell us a little bit about that experience?
Yes, I worked for the United States House of Representatives. I was chief counsel to a general oversight subcommittee of the House of Representatives Committee on Banking, Finance, and Urban Affairs. We did investigatory work and held hearings on important issues of the day regarding banking and housing issues, and so we were there for about 2 years. So it was an enlightening experience.
That's great. So, if you could go back and change anything about your career, what would it be?
I have to give some thought to that. I can't think of anything that I would change. I've been very blessed to have been to have a lot of work to do, and I've tried to work hard. Have been able to do that. I've had a family that's been willing to let me do that. If I had one thing in particular that looking back that I might do differently, I might take more vacations than I have. But one of the reasons I haven't is because I really do enjoy what I do.
Would you change your job if you wanted to?
I don't think I would. Let me rephrase that. I have changed my job some through the years. I have gotten the parts of the practice of law out of my practice that I really didn't enjoy doing. For example, domestic relations, divorce practice, child custody, and those sorts of things. There's some lawyers that really enjoy doing that and have a real knack for it. I never really did enjoy it because of the dissension that was always there, always a lot of friction. I've never done criminal law because my wife was a career prosecutor, so I've really not had to deal with that. I've really tried to migrate my practice toward the things that I really do enjoy doing, and that's real estate and estate planning and small business work and that sort of thing.
So if you weren't a lawyer, what would you be?
Well, since I got a business management degree in college and was starting into the MBA program, I probably would be in management somewhere, working for a company.
Okay, so I have one last question for you. Do you have any advice that you would give to someone that is interested in becoming a lawyer?
I'm probably an interesting person to ask that to, because as I explained earlier, I had no idea I was going to go to law school when I went to college. Really, I was almost out of college by the time I realized that. But had I had that focus, I probably would have wanted to have learned how to study a little bit harder, been a little more attentive to the things that make you successful in the classroom. One of the things that I would recommend that a prospective law student do is meet with lawyers, try to have conversations with them, figure out what works for them and what doesn't, and ask many of the same questions that you've asked me today. What do you like about your job? What do you not like about your job? I think if somebody is going to be very happy in what they do, they need to have a pretty good understanding of what they're going to be doing before they get there.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Carter. I think that's all the time we have left. I'm Georgia Hall, and you are watching Marshall Close Up. See you next time.